So we're trying out this new place, surrounded by rice fields. It's a really beautiful, there's Andrew. It's like this beautiful restaurant surrounded by rice fields, and the prices are actually really good here. This is my beautiful man. He's sitting there, he's looking at me. He's admiring me. Even though he's the one that should be admired, because just look at those eyes, look at that beautiful face. What's up, you guys? So I'm in this like office room type of thing. I'm in the upstairs like co-working area of our club. There's like this Balinese setup right here. It's like a Hindu setup for prayer, meditation, like serving the spiritual elements here. I'm not going to pretend to know too much, but it's like a very relaxing day. Today, Andrew and I went to that breakfast place, which we didn't even have breakfast. It was too late for breakfast. We woke up really late. We've been just really focused on healing, resting, all that stuff, like I've said in my videos. And then it's also that time of the month for me, so I've been extra just chill and resting. And then on top of that, I did a really, really intense, crazy workout yesterday that has all my muscles just like crazy tired. But I wanted to talk to, specifically for this video, to talk to anybody who's feeling really depressed. And I know that's a lot of people. Maybe it's just people that I've been talking to. Like maybe it's just that I've been attracting that kind of energy lately, or maybe it's just a lot of people are really depressed right now. It's hard to tell if it's just me or if it's everybody, but it seems like a lot of people, I mean, I'm talking to a mix of people, not everybody I'm talking to, but a lot of people I'm noticing are in this wave of depression, like feeling exhausted, depressed, unmotivated, all these things, feeling stuck. And you know, people watching my old videos, like I have a lot of videos where I've gone through like feelings of depression, I talk about it, and you know, it's never so intense for me, I feel like, because I have this platform, which has been a really big blessing. It's been like a coping mechanism for me to connect to other people in a really real way. Like for YouTube, I feel like I'm never able to get too depressed because I feel like I can, if it's really bad, I can just share my feelings without even worrying about like how it's gonna hurt the other person. Because like in a real life relationship, when you can only share your feelings with other humans, for me this is how I feel about human connections. Like if I can only share my feelings with other humans, then I'm always gonna hit a wall where I can't really fully be myself, because at some point I'm going to have to worry about like the other person's feelings. Either I'm talking too much and it's like making them tired, or I'm saying things that feel personal to them, you know, to their personal situation, or I just like the way that I'm talking is just getting on their nerves, or whatever it is. And like every person is gonna have their thing, and I certainly have my things. So I feel like with this YouTube channel, and I know a lot of my friends have started YouTube channels either because of me, or they just were thinking of doing it anyway, or you know, had nothing to do with me, but like it makes me feel really good to see that and to see the difference in their moods when they start having an outlet like this. It really is a huge difference. It's a huge difference to have a place where you can talk, make videos, you can say whatever you want, be as long, you can talk for hours, and it's like nobody's gonna get hurt because you're literally doing it for nobody. You're doing it for your camera. And if anybody wants to watch, they can turn it on, they can watch whatever parts they want, not watch whatever they don't want. So I really support this medium. But the first thing that I want to say to anybody who's feeling really depressed these days is like, you probably have a reason to be. Like all of your feelings have a reason. They're supposed to be there. Like you're fat, you're overeating, you're addicted to drugs, you're like all the bad things that are happening in your life that you're doing, all the bad feelings that you have, you're snapping at everybody, it's probably supposed to be there. And people will say, well, I have a condition, I have anything to address the problems, you know what I mean? Like I have, I'm hormonal because I'm a female. I'm overly sensitive. I have ADHD, autism. I have bipolar. Like, people will give themselves labels, or they will accept labels or whatever, which is fine if it makes you feel better in the moment. But like 9 times out of 10, I mean, there's a reason. There's a thing that started it. Maybe it's a thing that you can remember, that you can consciously remember, or maybe it's a thing that you can't consciously remember because your body inherited it, like absorbed it, a trauma that happened when you were a kid, before you were a kid, when you were on your parents. Like, there's always a reason for depression. There's always, it's people, humans are not created to be depressed. We're not created with the depression as our ideal form. And anyone that convinces you that it's so, that this is just your fate, like you just always have to be depressed, and like life always just has to suck, and like this is just, you're supposed to be like this forever. Like this is like your highest ideal, and you can't have any better, and like there's no reason for it. You're just a depressed person, and can't tell you that there's an external reason. It's probably because their whole world is depression. And I don't even know if I'm making sense, but I feel like probably a few of the best things that I've ever done for myself, because I've struggled with depression my whole life, really. I mean, on and off. I can't say that I've been, and I think probably the most fortunate thing for me is that I haven't been depressed straight, like on and off my whole life, for just moving around different places. I'm very sensitive, and I have a blessing of being very, very connected to my body, my instincts, especially as a woman. Yes, it's hormonal, but like it also means that we pick up on things a little sharper. And whether you want to call it hormones, you want to call it a mental disorder, or whatever you want to call it, like I'm not picking up nothing, I'm picking up something. And I think this has been a blessing for me. So when it's bad, it feels really bad. When it's good, it feels great. But the biggest blessing for me has been, first of all, having these senses to be able to know that it's not just me, like to be able to see and explore myself in happy states versus unhappy states. So to know that the whole world doesn't suck, there's a variety. The other thing is being able to talk about it, having a platform for which to talk about it, to connect. So depression with a place to be able to connect to other people and talk about your problems or your feelings, whatever, just makes it a little bit better. The third thing is traveling and exploring. Probably the best, like the third best thing for my depression has been traveling and exploring. It might make you a little more depressed in the short term because it's exhausting to travel and adapt to new stimuli. I get overwhelmed very easily. Like every little thing overwhelms me. Right now, the place that we're in, I don't know if you can hear, there's a loud, ooh, I just saw a rat. So I don't know if you can hear, there's a loud like, it kind of drives me crazy. I don't like it. It's actually making me want to leave the club because they have just really loud music all the time, and I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy loud music. I don't enjoy events with like a lot of people, and it's profitable for a lot of places here, so like I don't think that's a bad thing. If you're like running a place and you have a lot of music and you have a lot of people, that's great. But for me, it really it like exhausts my senses, and it takes me away from being able to be my full stable self. So traveling can be very exhausting on your system, be a huge burden on your system. But long term, what traveling and exploring and reading and watching videos or whatever exploring can do, and doing research can widen your idea of happiness that's out there. There is happiness out there for like everybody, because you're not unique. As much as you might think that you're unique, you're really not special or unique. You're special, but you're not. There's going to be parts of you in someone in the world, because the world is a place of 8 billion people. There's going to be at least a few people out there that are going to have something like what you have, that are going to have struggles that are similar to what you have. No one's going to be exactly like you, so you're always going to be unique in that sense, but there's always going to be people, or maybe even groups of people, that are enjoying the kind of life that might make you a little happier or a lot happier. So I think a lot of people become depressed and completely unmotivated, and maybe even want to leave the world when they don't have that concept, because they've been kept in a bubble where they've sort of gaslit themselves, or been gaslit into thinking that this is like, there is nothing better out there for them, and if they're unhappy with their situation, then tough noogies, like, this is the best you're ever gonna get. And it might be the best that you're ever gonna get, but it doesn't have to be the best that you're ever gonna get. Like, if you at least accept the idea that it's possible for you to have it a little better, be happy. First, take like a big resting period, and then reassess your situation. Chances are you might not be depressed in a few months. I think a lot of people, especially people that grew up with only one language, I really feel that if you only grew up speaking English, if you grew up speaking any language, only one language, you're gonna have a very hard time in life. You grew up only speaking Espanol, you're gonna have a hard time in life. You grew up only speaking English, you're not only going to be probably poor, you're probably also going to be sterile. I'm not saying this for every single person that only speaks English, but I'm saying for like most people, especially in 2024. If you grew up only speaking English and you raise your kids only speaking English, there's going to be a big chance. And I'm not even thinking of anybody in particular when I say this. Purely just making a statement. I'm not having anybody in mind when I'm saying this, so if you feel personally offended, I don't even know who you are. Your kids are probably going to be poor, statistically going to be poor and sterile. If you're in the minority that won't be, then I admire you, and you're doing really great. You must be really doing amazing in life, and you're really pulling yourself up by the bootstraps. But most people that stay in one place their whole life, that only speak one language, because when you speak only one language, you're only exposed to the paradigms of that culture and that world. You're only exposed to the paradigms of the English-speaking world. If you're in the English-speaking world right now, you're going to believe a lot of things about the world, because you're only reading the news of the English-speaking world. You're only catching the slangs, the phrases, the energy, the vibes of that world that speaks that language. If the cultural trend of that world is that women are going to be the stronger bearers of society, men are not really needed, having kids is not really fun or enjoyable, or even like just an incredible burden, because people are generally poor or struggling to make ends meet. And like, if you're in one society where there are certain struggles, then if you don't speak any other language and you don't know of any other paradigms, you're only going to think that the world is exactly that one language, the way that one language thinks it is. Like, you know, when I hear people say, well, the world is like this, in this one way, usually it's people that speak one language and they're saying things in that, according to that language. And I think a lot of Americans are like this, but I'm not speaking to Americans, you know, I'm speaking to everybody, you know, everybody that is only in, when you're limited to one community, like, you know, I grew up in the Orthodox Jewish community. I spent a lot of time in political, and I feel like I haven't even been around that much. I've just spent a lot of time in like individual communities, you know, spend time in the Persian community, spend time in the Jewish community, spend time in the conservative political community. Like there's, you know, spend time in Texas. People will stay their whole life in one place or in one community or in one ideology, in one language paradigm. The biggest one is the language paradigm. And they'll assume that everything in the world is true according to that language's paradigm. And if there's a part of them or their body that is having issue with the reality as they know it, then they're going to possibly feel despair and doom, because they can't, according to reality as they know it, they have a huge problem that they can't get around. But when you travel, when you learn other languages, when you really get deep into like other paradigms that are out there, and there are so many paradigms out there, so many things that used to be the biggest problem to you, or the dead end to you, or just made you feel exhausted, unmotivated, whatever. So many things like that might actually not be relevant at all, might be a plus. Like your world changes, your biology changes. Your biology really does change, because your thoughts, feelings, those are happening in your mind, which is happening in your body. It's all affected by your body. Your reality doesn't exist outside of you and your body. And when you're tired, when you're not getting the nutrients that you need, when you're not getting the exercise that you need, the sleep that you need, the rest that you need, you're gonna have sucky thoughts and feelings. And you're gonna think that that is reality, when the reality might just be that you're not where you're supposed to be. Doesn't make you a problem, it just makes you not where you're supposed to be. There's so many places where you could actually sleep for the next few years. There's so many places where, you know, for me, I think the main problem was being exhausted, physically exhausted, because I would be thinking, strategizing, whatever, and then I would become so burned out in my head. Like, when I think about things, I strategize, I think really deeply into them, and I get burned out really fast when I'm in my head, because I think so hard, and I think very analytically, so I get burned out very quickly. And what that means is that for the next week, if I spend like an hour or two thinking and strategizing, for the next few days, I might be out of commission mentally. So that means I can't do any job which requires me to keep sitting and staying at a laptop for so long, for so many hours. It means I can't like be at my phone for too much. Like I really get burned out by just the constant, you know, working. I need to rest a lot, and also my body works in cycles. So sometimes I'm just have more bursts of energies for a few days at a time. Sometimes I have less. And I feel like when I was living in the States, because the paradigm of the West of Americans is very vanilla. Like Americans, most people, at least that I know, women are not as moody and up and down as I am, because most people are medicated. And I don't want to dunk on medications and stuff, but like the paradigm of that world is very not cyclical. And if you are very cyclical, like if your body is very cyclical, you have these moods, you're out of commission for a few days at a time, you're already bursts of energy a few days at a time. I went to the psychiatrist for manic depression because nobody could conceive that that's a thing. Which manic, no, they call it manic bipolar. Like outside of that paradigm, people, especially women, have cycles, and it's normal. It's healthy, it's normal. And not everybody is like this, but a lot of people are like this. And it's not necessarily tied to it being a problem or something that you have to literally change your biology over, because the world outside of the American world could actually support it. It could actually support various cyclical changes, because you don't actually have to be on like a 9-to-5 work, grind every single day of the week in other places, like you might in places like in the United States. And I'm just using this as an example for me. How I was able to learn how to accept myself in the way I am and not feel so down and demotivated is like realizing that maybe the way that I am doesn't have to be a problem. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom, the end of the world. It just means that I'm in a place that doesn't match with the way that my body is. And there are other places that might match a little better, where there are other places where the chickens are a little less caged and hormonized. The chickens are roaming a little more freely, and I'm comparing myself to a chicken. But it's actually a real thing. In the States, the chickens that you eat are medicated. They're being injected with stuff. They're not roaming freely. They're being managed like in a factory. And I don't think that it's any coincidence that the humans are like that too. For whatever reason, probably because I'm, the eldest daughter of people that had freshly just landed in the United States and were living kind of out in the villages in Iran. So my parents were not from a very medicated, very regulated kind of group of humans. So, and I know a lot of people are like this, where their bodies are just a little more raw, a little more unprocessed, a little more out in the wild, you know what I mean? And they'll spend time in the United States, and after a certain amount of time, they'll become, indoctrinated through the culture that's very regulated, very medicated, very, kind of artificial for a lot of people. And they'll start to become depressed and down and start to believe in themselves as being something wrong, rather than, hey, maybe my body's cycle or flow isn't as cookie cutter as this society needs it to be. Nothing wrong with the society, because the society is producing certain things that some people find to be nice, but it doesn't make you wrong or dead or doom and gloom if it's just not vibing with you. I think probably one of the best things that happened to me to get me out of this despair and depression was traveling. And in the first place, having other paradigms, like already having other paradigms in my head, made me know that I can keep moving on. If I didn't like a situation, I can keep exploring until I found it. And it's going to take time, because when you travel, you're still exhausted. When you're trying to figure out your place in the world, like House Hackers Anonymous, the book that I wrote, it's basically all about the whole journey towards feeling safe and secure, being able to financially get yourself to a place where you can even feel safe and secure, to even know who you are without the constraints of survival and all these scary things looming over your head. Because I just feel like so many people are gaslit into thinking that they're depressed or they're doomed for life, that this is going to be the rest of their life. They're going to be manic, they're going to be bipolar, they're going to be like crazy hormonal or whatever their doctor told them that they are. And to just ignore the underlying problems in their life as a factor in any of this stuff. I feel like so many people have these glaring problems where like they tell me about their life and I'm like, oh my God, your life sounds like a nightmare. If I was you, and I actually don't tell them, I'm not very honest with most people. And I prefer it that way. I don't want to be on, I don't have a stake. But like, I feel like most people, if they tell me about their life, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like if I was you, I would kill myself. Like, I would. And I don't, this is just a preference. I just wouldn't be able to stand living in a life for as long as you've been living that is like this. You have these glaring problems. By glaring problems, I mean this shoe is about to drop. You're going to get really sick from something. Something really bad is about to happen to you. You're about to lose your job. You're about to lose a lot of money. Like, bad things are about to happen to you, and the signs are there, and it's very clear that bad things are about to happen to you. And it seems like you maybe instinctively or even consciously see this, and it's causing you to have these negative feelings, but you can't even validate those feelings. So you just think that you're crazy. And people will show me this, and it will drive me crazy to watch. It is really hard for me to watch when people think that they have a mental problem. If your life is like legitimately awesome, and your trajectory, your life outlook, not just your life right now as it is, but your outlook in life, like your future, you're going to reproduce easily, your kids are going to be fine. Like, I mean, for like most people in the United States, at least where I'm from, that's not true. Like most people, even if you are lucky enough to be very, very wealthy, even if you're lucky enough to be able to reproduce, have children, your kids are probably not going to be able to reproduce. They're probably going to be sterile. They're probably going to be poor. They're probably going to be indoctrinated at some point, radicalized by people that are really suffering, and they're going to suffer. That's just going to be their life. I'm sorry. And this is according to my world as it is. Like, I would like this paradigm of mine about the United States to change. I would like to meet Americans that are very happy, wealthy people. I still have yet to meet any American that's happier or wealthier than the people that I grew up with, which is the Persian Jewish community. I still have yet to meet anybody that's happier and wealthier than the Persian Jewish LA community. I'm sorry. Most people that I've met are just like, and by the way, I left the Persian Jewish community because it has problems. So I'm not even saying that that's the ideal. I'm just saying that everybody else is so much poorer and suffering so much more. So if that's the ideal, and the Persian Jewish community, very traumatized people, full of trauma. So this is not the highest ideal by any means. So I'm saying that if I just don't know anybody So that's just my paradigm. I just don't know, where are these rich, stable, healthy, happy, family-oriented, the women are fully feeling confident in their feminine energy, the men are feeling fully confident in their masculine energy. Where are these people that you speak of? I have yet to meet them, other than the Persian Jewish community, which has its own struggles because they're traumatized people. They came from Iran, from a war, and all of these things that happened to them. A lot of them were persecuted and tortured in jails. Like, these are not healthy people in a lot of ways, but they're still, from what I've seen in the United States, like the highest ideal so far, because everybody else is so much more effed up. So I just think that I see people that genuinely have a reason to feel depressed. Like, you genuinely have a reason to be sad. You genuinely have a reason to feel stressed about the future, to feel anxious. But because you only live in that paradigm, you have gaslit yourself into thinking that you don't have a genuine reason to feel depressed, sad, anxious, and that the problem is you. And you're just a depressed person, it's the way you are, it's you for even having a problem with it. The fact that you have a problem with it is a problem. That's how you see yourself. And when I see that, I just can't anymore. I just can't. There's like nothing I can say. I feel very helpless in that situation. The best I can say, if you are feeling depressed or you're feeling down, is the best I can tell you is, first of all, learn another language. And 99% of people are not going to do this, because learning another language is very hard. It takes a lot of energy, and you're going to feel very exhausted doing it. But it's worth it, because you need to learn of other paradigms in the world. The entire world is not the Roman Empire. If you don't understand what I'm saying, that's totally fine. If you do understand what I'm saying, maybe you can save yourself. The entire world is not your depression, whatever is making you feel depressed. There are places out there, and there are paradigms out there, there are lifestyles out there that will support your body healing. It's so funny because I've probably mentioned this before, but we are living in Bali right now, Bali, Indonesia. And we've been exploring throughout the island. It's like a big and small island at the same time, and it's really nice. Like, we've been exploring, and we noticed that there's like retirees. A lot of people come here to either retire or have raised their families here, send their kids to school here while they work on their online businesses or while they work on their manufacturing or remote businesses. And one thing that we noticed is that there is not this place is not wheelchair accessible, and it's like there's like really old people, but they're all really healthy. They're all like walking around, stuff on their heads, carrying big loads. They're very strong elderly people, and they're just walking around, walking up the steps. The streets aren't fully formed in a lot of cases, but the elderly people are totally fine, and they're fully adapted, and they're healthier and stronger than young people that we know. And we see ourselves as very strong and healthy, but that's only because we're comparing ourselves to the American paradigm, because most Americans that we know are very not strong and healthy or healthy. And if they are, it's, they're artificially propping up their body in a lot of ways that have consequences. So they're just not, their longevity is going to be very low. So like we noticed that so we were talking about it, we're like, so what do the wheelchair people do? What do like the elderly people that can't do this do they just stay home their whole life? And we were talking about it, and we're like observing people here, and what we've come to the conclusion of is like people don't get to the point where they're just sitting at home, and they grow up adapting to a life where there aren't wheelchairs and wheelchair ramps and everybody's on a medication, or like there aren't these crutches. People grow up being forced to physically adapt to a dynamic world. They're growing up learning multiple languages. They're learning Indonesian, they're learning English, they're learning Chinese, they're learning Malaysian in a lot of cases. Like, people are speaking many languages. They're walking around and operating in many different terrains. They're not growing up in a fixed, sterile position. And that's why they don't even have the same paradigm of like, oh, but what about the wheelchair accessible people? They don't have wheelchair accessible people. We saw one guy with a wheelchair and he was missing his legs, and he was like still getting around and doing his thing in the streets. And I don't know how he goes up and down the stairs. I guess he has probably really strong arms where he just like with this whole wheelchair like pushes himself up and down. Like, I have no idea. But this guy seems, that guy seemed pretty okay with the situation. Like, I think that so many people in the country that I grew up in are so far gone that if I were them, I would just grieve. I would just be grieving, or I would just end things already. So, like, to those people, I wouldn't even tell them anything. Like, I think, but if you're feeling depressed and you don't see an immediate problem in your life, you're healthy enough that you're able to move, you're able to fly, if you have a credit card, you're able to put a flight on your credit card. Like, I think that sooner rather than later, you will benefit from traveling and starting to learn multiple languages. And, people talk about multiple passports. For a lot of people, that's too late. Like, multiple passports for a lot of people is going to be an uphill battle, because countries are charging a lot of money for you to invest in their country, get a passport, get dual citizenship. If you can get dual citizenship, for me, the only two countries right now that would like just give me dual citizenship by ancestry is Iran and Israel. I'm an American citizen, so the other two countries that I can get dual citizenship of is Iran, which I can get I have Iranian citizenship rights, and because my parents are Iranian, and I can get Israeli citizenship rights because I can show proof that I'm Jewish. And both of these countries are at war with each other, so it makes me not want to get either of those citizenships just because I just don't feel safe. But if you have if you can get other countries' citizenships just to be safe, I would definitely recommend it. But at the very least, for your depression, I think it's really important to understand and learn about all the ways that your mind can be, and it's not going to feel right away, it's not going to feel automatic. Over time, when you take your brain out of the paradigm that you're used to, like you feel depressed, let's say because you don't have a certain amount of money, or you feel depressed because your body is just not healthy, so it's just making you feel depressed. You're like, well, I don't know why I feel depressed, I just feel depressed. You take yourself completely out of the lifestyle that you've been living in. Go figure out a way to live in nature, however that looks like for you, however you can fathom doing that. Spend as much time as you can possibly spend outdoors. eating non-processed foods, completely cut processed foods from your diet. We have basically cut processed foods from our diet completely. Mostly. There's these coffee packets that we get sometimes that it's fun and it's like instant coffee. Like there's certain things that we have. Powdered, like salt, pepper, garlic, like whatever, things that we get from the market when we cook food at home or whatever. Like there's still processed stuff that we get, but definitely cut out like processed snacks, chips, whatever. Like really try to cut down on processed foods. Try to stick to just really natural, like we've been having legit every day. Our rule has been 2 coconuts every day. Sleep a lot. And like a lot of this might be really impossible for you if you're already stuck in the grinder, you're working jobs and you're living paycheck to paycheck. Like once you're living paycheck to paycheck, for a lot of people, that's already death, because getting out of it is going to be just impossible. It's going to be more expensive than just staying and just living a slow death for a lot of people. So like a lot of people, I feel like think that I'm being dramatic, but they don't see how stark the difference is, because everybody in their world is doing the same thing as them. Everybody in their world is working 9-to-5 jobs, living paycheck to paycheck, and becoming slowly more sick in their body, less healthy, more medicated, more contaminated. Their body's becoming more contaminated by pollutants, slowly. And they're all doing this together. So if their body does feel negative or uncomfortable or unhealthy, they see it as just, I'm depressed and this is a problem with me. They can't fathom that there's something wrong with their world, that they're not having their needs met. They just can't fathom it because they don't have the perspective of another paradigm to show them that they're living a very toxic life for themselves. And if you don't even understand what I'm talking about, like, it's okay. I feel like there's a very thin line between being sensitive to problems and just being crazy. Like, you're crazy if nobody else understands what you're saying. You know what I mean? Or if you don't understand what you're saying. But I think a lot of people, to me, actually aren't crazy at all. Actually, most people. Even the people that I meet that are crazy are not crazy. Like, actually, when I think about it, I have never met anybody that was just crazy, that didn't have a reason for being crazy. Like, I don't think I've met anybody that acted the way that they acted, that was depressed, that was down, that was crazy anxious, that wanted to kill themselves or tried to kill themselves, that didn't have a reason. In fact, the people, to me, that had the biggest reason were people that didn't consciously have a reason. Those were the people that had the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest reason. Were the people that were so gaslit into thinking that there's a problem with them. They were so gaslit into thinking that there's nothing wrong with their world, their life, their environment, their anything around them, that they couldn't even fathom that there's anything wrong. And they just had gaslit themselves into thinking that there's no reason and they are just crazy. Those were the people I felt that had the biggest reason for the way that they acted. And it's really sad. Like, it's really sad to me, because when you can't learn how to validate yourself, and I talked about this in the last video, when you can't learn how to validate yourself, your own problems, your own feelings, and why you feel the way that you do, nobody else can do it. Other people can try, they might, as a coach or as like a mentor or someone who cares about you, they might sense that you're open to it and then like just lead you in that direction. But if you're not willing to validate yourself, like nobody else can do it for you. It really starts from when you were a child, and your parents can only teach you how to validate you by validating you when you're very little. But if you're raised into the system where you're taught not to validate yourself, you're taught that to just shut your eyes from problems, from everything. If I'm feeling this way, I'm probably just crazy. Suck it up, buttercup. Let's just avoid all of our feelings. There is nobody that can fix that. Like, all I can say is, if you're watching this video, you probably might have sensed. You're probably not far gone. If you're watching this video, if you're watching a video on YouTube that is giving you like a solution for your depression or whatever, you're probably not far gone. You probably still feel a little bit hopeful and optimistic that maybe you are not dead in the water, and that there might be a solution for you, because maybe you're not the problem. And the problem is just that maybe you need to adjust your life, and you need to, for me, like a big thing for me, and I don't know if it's like this for other people, because most people that I know are, like, I feel like probably the biggest privilege that I grew up with is that I don't have only one paradigm. And the thing that makes me feel even more optimistic and even less depressed in my life is learning about other paradigms in the world, constantly learning about new paradigms. Like I've mentioned before, right now I'm in the process of learning 4 languages in addition to the 3 languages that I already speak, and possibly 5 languages, but I just don't want to overload myself. So I will be speaking within a few years 7 or 8 languages, hopefully. And that for me makes me feel the most optimistic, because the doom and gloom that I see in American culture, where I spent most of my life, the English speaking culture, that doom and gloom doesn't feel as prevalent in a lot of other languages. Like, it's just very different. And yes, it maybe does feel prevalent in certain Western languages, maybe in more like European languages, and Espanol too. You know, Espanol has the news cycle is very, but like, there are paradigms that Westerners don't even expose themselves to. There are paradigms that are not as doom and gloom, that you won't even think about, because you're so trained to completely ignore to just completely ignore them, because your paradigm only like accepts European countries. Like, people will say, you know, I see so many people that they'll say, oh, like, I'm gonna, like, they grew up thinking the United States is the best country in the world, is like the safest place in the world, or like whatever, the best country, which might be true, depending on what you're looking at. So, but then a lot of people say, like, well, I'm gonna leave the country and check out other countries, and they'll go to Europe. Europe is worse than the US in the problems that exist, like worse. So they'll go to Europe and they'll be like, oh, like, it was so much worse, whatever, like, I should have just appreciated the United States is the best country on earth, the best country, the safest, the best opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And they won't ever think to, like, they won't even think to look at the countries that our culture is just used to ignoring, which might actually have more of a paradigm that can challenge theirs. And it's really important to be able to explore paradigms that challenge yours, because whatever problems you're living with that might be influenced by your paradigm, are suddenly not going to be problems anymore once you have another paradigm to lean on. And this is something that you can't even know this to be a solution for your depression until you've tried it. And you can't try it without a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of work learning in other languages, spending time in the culture. It's going to take a lot of work to try to understand these other paradigms. And if you don't know what a paradigm is, Google it. It's going to take a lot of work to learn another language, to learn multiple different languages, learn these other paradigms that are going to make a lot of the problems that exist only within your paradigm, it's going to make it like irrelevant. Anyways, so that is all I will say for now. There are many other solutions for depression, such as call an expert, call the 1-800 hotline, and talk to your psychiatrist, as well as just be in your body, exercise, spend time outside, spend time in nature, love, talk to people a lot, have physical interactions with people, and drink a lot of water and sleep really well with air conditioning, and like 10-hour stretches of sleep, all that stuff. But the main thing in this video is that travel, exploring, and expanding paradigms, because without that, a lot of the other stuff is going to be an uphill battle. Alrighty, thanks for watching this video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day wherever you are. So we're on this rooftop pizza place, and this place that we're at, it's like really pretty up here, but owner said that they're having trouble getting people to come and check out this place because it's so like remote and it's stories. They got all kinds of pizza, gluten-free, regular. What do you think they can improve, baby?
Just curb appeal. Like, they need better signage. They need parking. It's not really safe to park off this road. It's not convenient.
Yeah, it's not convenient.
They need better signage. Like, the only reason we knew it was here is because they finally put up like a little red sign that said gluten-free pizza, and that brought us in immediately.
Yeah, actually, and
searching for gluten-free pizza, they're not on Google Maps probably. Even though they have a Google Maps thing right there.
Yeah, and actually, someone told us about that. Remember, someone told us to come here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have even other than that, because it just doesn't look nice outside. No. It's like on this busy road.
Parking, events, like they just gotta get customers in, they need to become known,
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of improvements need to be made, but like maybe that's not something we can afford right now.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wonder if this guy would to tell him.
Well, I think he needs a little bit of help,
Yeah, maybe we could tell him like what to fix.
Yeah. I mean, you can feel it coming off of him. He really needs customers. Like, he really cares about the customers.
Yeah, he keeps saying like, "Can you tell your friends to come here?" Whatever. It's called KBM by Jumping Goats. Pizza Napoli. But also like it's confusing. Like, so it's confusing. Like, what's the restaurant called? Is it KBM? Or is it Pizza Napoli style? Or is it Lagi Bali Ubud Resto? Like, what is it?
And what's Jumping Goats?
He was explaining it to me. He was like...
Is that the brand? Or is it like... Because they have multiple restaurants kind of going on.
Yeah, he was saying that. He's like, well, this is a restaurant. And then next door where they make the gluten-free pizzas is a restaurant. So it's like... The whole thing is a pizza place, but like they make it the gluten-free and the regular pizza in like a different part of it, and that's why there's two different menus. And he said his aunt owns this part, and then his like brother or something, like it's like a family thing.
Yeah.
But they are...
If you go look over the back wall, I think there's a compound with a bunch of their family houses.
Yeah?
I think there's a collection of houses the whole family lives in. They look nice too, by the way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's hard to tell here, right?
Yeah, because it's dark.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I feel like a place like this would be actually really nice to just like get at a local price and live in it. There's like no mosquitoes up here.
Yeah.
And the air is nice.
Yep.
Like you don't even need AC up here.
No. Well, not at the moment. Yeah. It's really nice to get up above in the wind a little bit.
Yeah, and you're not exposed to the street noise.
As much. It's still there, but you're above it.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem and the solution is that it's really busy down here, and it's great because everybody's driving by this place. I can see it, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, it's really hard to get off the road and park. Like
Yeah.
it's actually kind of dangerous to park here.
Yeah. They should give us an influencer deal and we'll come here like every day and post about it.
I feel driven to because the guy needs help. Like, I want to
Yeah.
help the guy with his business because so far it looks awesome. Like,
Babe, should we take pictures here? Like influencer pictures? It's actually not a bad idea. Take like hot
I've
pictures
already been thinking about.
and like cute outfits, and I'll use that to market clothing when it's ready, but like
Yeah.
that's oh, here, I take a pic. Thank you so much. I'm filming it. You could be this is our oh, the tissue. Thank you so much. That's very pretty. Here, this is our beef gluten-free. And then we have this is the which one did you get? The Hawaiian?
Yeah, Hawaiian.
Very pretty. Yeah, in the daytime I'm sure it looks much nicer. Yeah.
This is video or
Oh, is it? Oh, sorry. Babe, what do you think of the pizza?
It's actually really good. It's spot on. The crust is perfect.
Really good.
Perfectly cooked.
Yeah, mine is gluten-free and it's actually like filling.
Yeah, we've been hunting for gluten-free pizza, and we found this place kind of by accident, and it tastes good. The pineapple's really good. I got a Hawaiian, you know.
I got beef garlic.
Yeah, the consistency is just right on everything. Like nothing's soggy, but nothing's overcooked. The crust is perfect. Everything's really firm, but yet just tasty, and
Yeah.
it really does. It is a good pizza. Like I'm not just shilling for this pizza. Like it's actually good.
I agree.